It's August 24th in the year 410 AD. The moon is high over the city of Rome. For 800 years, this city has been the eternal heartbeat of the world, invincible, untouchable. But tonight, there is a strange sound at the Salaria gate. It isn't the sound of a battering ram. It isn't the roar of an invading army. It's the quiet, terrifying creak of a heavy door being unlocked from the inside. Slaves, starving and desperate, are opening the gates for the barbarians. By morning, the city that was supposed to last forever is burning. Now, I want you to hold that image in your mind. The smoke, the confusion, the realization that the end didn't come from a meteor or a plague or a god. It came from exhaustion. Historians tell us Rome took centuries to die. It was a slow, agonizing decline, a death by 1,000 cuts. But I've been looking at the data, and I found something disturbing, something that keeps me up at night. We are following the exact same script as Rome, but there is one massive, terrifying difference. They didn't have the internet. They didn't have high-frequency trading algorithms. They didn't have hypersonics. Rome took 250 years to collapse because news traveled at the speed of a horse. America could do it in 25 because today, panic travels at the speed of light. Welcome to the investigation. Let's rewind the clock. I want to take you back to a specific moment that triggered the end for Rome. It wasn't a war. It was a decision made in a quiet room by a man named Nero. Before Nero, the Roman silver coin, the denarius, was pure. It was 100% silver. It was money you could trust. But Nero had a problem. He wanted to spend more than he had. He wanted palaces. He wanted parties. He wanted to be loved. So he had a brilliant idea. He ordered the mint to melt down the coins. He mixed in a little bit of copper. Just 10%. Nobody would notice, right? He pocketed the difference and spent it. For a while, it worked like magic. The economy boomed. People felt rich. But he had started a fire that wouldn't go out for 2 centuries. Every emperor after him did the exact same thing. They shaved a little more off the edges. 10% became 20. 20 became 50. By the time the empire fell, the silver coin was just a bronze slug dipped in a thin wash of silver. It was worthless. Does that sound familiar? I pulled up the charts for the US dollar. Since 1971, when we took the dollar off the gold standard, we have essentially been shaving the coin. But here is the twist. Rome had to physically collect coins, melt them down, and remint them. It was slow work. It took decades to destroy the currency. In 2020, in the span of a few months, the United States printed nearly 20% of all the dollars that had ever existed in history. We didn't need furnaces. We didn't need metal. We just needed a keyboard. What took Rome a century of physical labor, we accomplished in a fiscal quarter. This is what I mean by speed. The mechanics of the collapse are the same. Greed, overspending, the illusion of wealth. But the velocity is exponential. And it's not just the money. I want to talk about the people running the show. There's a term historians use for late-stage Rome. It's called elite overproduction. It sounds fancy, but the concept is actually really simple. Imagine a game of musical chairs. You have 10 chairs and 10 players. Everything is fine. Everyone has a seat at the table. But as Rome got richer, more people wanted to be in charge. Suddenly you had 50 players and still only 10 chairs. When you have too many rich, powerful people fighting for too few positions of power, things get ugly. They stop playing by the rules. They start tearing the chairs apart. In Rome, this led to the optimates and the populares. 2 political factions that hated each other more than they hated the barbarians. They stopped debating in the Senate. They started bringing knives to work. Eventually, they started bringing armies. Now, look at Washington. Look at the deadlock. Look at how every election feels like an existential crisis. It's not just that we disagree on policy. It's that the elite class has become so large and the competition for power so fierce that they are willing to burn the institutions down just to get a seat. But again, look at the speed. In Rome, political polarization took generations to fester. A rumor about a rival politician took weeks to travel from Rome to Egypt. Today, a scandal breaks on Twitter in seconds. The outrage is instantaneous. The mobilization is instant. We are running the Roman simulation on fast forward. I want to tell you about a man named Diocletian. He was a Roman emperor who tried to fix the inflation problem. He saw prices soaring. Bread was becoming unaffordable. So, he did what every tyrant eventually does. He issued an edict on maximum prices. He literally wrote a list of what everything should cost. If you sold bread for more than the list price, he cut off your head. Simple, right? It failed miserably. Shopkeepers just hid their goods. The black market exploded. The economy ground to a halt. Now, we haven't started executing shopkeepers yet. But listen to the rhetoric coming out of our central banks. They talk about price controls. They talk about managing expectations. They are trying to fight the laws of economics with regulations. And this is where the 25 years theory gets scary. Rome could survive bad economic policy for a long time because most people were farmers. If the currency collapsed, you could still grow your own wheat. You could trade a chicken for a pair of shoes. The economy was decentralized. It was robust. America is different. We are hyper-optimized. We are efficient. We rely on just-in-time supply chains. If a truck stops moving in California, a grocery store in New York goes empty in 3 days. We saw a glimpse of this in 2020. We saw how fragile the shelves really are. Rome was a stone building. It was hard to knock down. America is a glass skyscraper. It's beautiful. It's tall. But if you shatter one pane, the whole structure loses integrity. Let's talk about the military. This is the part that usually gets people angry, but we have to look at the map. At its peak, Rome had legions stationed from Scotland to Syria. They were the police force of the world. But maintaining that perimeter was expensive, insanely expensive. Every dollar spent on a soldier on the Rhine was a dollar not spent on a bridge in Italy. As the economy weakened, they couldn't afford the legions anymore. So they started hiring mercenaries. They hired the Goths. They hired the very people who would eventually sack them. They outsourced their own survival. I dug into the Pentagon's budget. We have bases in over 80 countries. We are projecting power everywhere. But back home, our bridges are crumbling. Our trains derail. Our power grid flickers in the winter. We are stretching the empire thin, just like they did. But the collapse of the Roman legions took a century of slow retreat. In the age of drone warfare and cyber attacks, a military advantage can evaporate overnight. Imagine a cyber Pearl Harbor. The power grid goes down. The banks freeze. The GPS satellites go dark. In Rome, if the frontier fell, it took months for the enemy to reach the capital. In the 21st century, the front line is everywhere. The enemy is already inside the server. So, why 25 years? Why that specific number? Because of complexity. There is a theory in systems engineering. The more complex a system becomes, the more prone it is to cascading failure. Rome was complex for its time, but compared to the global derivatives market, compared to the Internet of Things, it was a Lego set. We have built a machine so complex that even the people running it don't understand it anymore. Remember 2008? The smartest guys in the room didn't know what was inside the bonds they were selling. They built a doomsday machine and pressed on because the math looked good. When the next crash comes, it won't be a slow slide. It will be a cliff. But I promised you I wouldn't just leave you with doom, because there is a secret about the fall of Rome that nobody tells you. We say Rome fell in 476 AD, but that's not the whole story. The empire fell, the bureaucracy fell, the corrupt politicians fell. But the people? The people didn't vanish. Life went on, and for some people, life actually got better. When the tax collectors stopped coming, the farmers kept their grain. When the legions left, communities had to band together to protect themselves. They rediscovered localism. They built new things from the ashes. The end of the empire was not the end of the world. It was just the end of a specific way of organizing the world. So, what is the solution for us? If the collapse is happening faster, our response has to be faster too. We have to stop waiting for a Caesar to save us. There is no Caesar coming. The solution is to build a life that doesn't depend on the glass skyscraper. It's about resilience. It's about owning things that are real. Rome debased their currency until it was worthless. So own assets that can't be printed. Land, gold, skills. Rome's supply chains broke down. So get to know the farmer down the road. Shorten your own supply chain. Rome's society fractured because people lost trust in their neighbors. So build your tribe. The government cannot fix a culture that has forgotten how to trust. Only you can do that. The next 25 years are going to be a wild ride. We are going to see things that seem impossible. We might see the end of the dollar as the global reserve currency. We might see the map of the world redrawn. But here is the truth I want you to take away. Collapse is not a funeral. It's a forest fire. It burns away the dead wood. It burns away the rot. It's terrifying while it burns. But the soil that is left behind, that soil is rich. That is where the new things grow. Rome took 250 years to die because it was dying of old age. America might take 25 because we are dying of a fever. But fevers break, and when the fever breaks, the patient either dies or they wake up stronger. The choice of which one happens, that isn't up to the Federal Reserve. It isn't up to the president. It's up to us. The gates are opening. The noise is getting louder. But this time, we know what's coming. And because we know, we can be ready. This is the end of the empire of debt. but it could be the beginning of something much more human. Stay watching, because the history books are being written right now, and you are the main character.